Okay, seems to have settled, so I might get started in this presentation. So the way this presentation is going to work is that I will do my talk through the information to provide you guys, and then at the end there will be time for questions. So I'm expecting my presentation to go for about 20 to 30 minutes, and then obviously we have time for questions at the end. So when we get to the end of the presentation, you can either leave or throw your questions in the chat. Um, and I'll remind you as we get started that this meeting is being recorded. I'm joining you from Dharawal land, not on Gundungurra, but I pay my respect to the elders past, present, and future on Dharawal land, as well as the Gundungurra land that majority of you are probably joining me from today, or any of the other Indigenous lands of which you join me this afternoon. So those who don't know me, my name is Ryan Noonan. I'm the leader of digital technologies and innovation at Chevalier College. Just started there this year, and one of my big roles at the school this year has been around generative artificial intelligence. So that's going to be the topic of this presentation today, to talk you through the way that we've approached artificial intelligence at Chev this year and our plans moving forward. And I will talk through a bit of the state of artificial intelligence and its impact on education and the workforce at the moment. I'll talk about the 3 C's of AI learning that we're moving forward with at Chevalier College. I'll talk about the different AI assessment road signs that we are using and will be using moving forward. I'll talk a little bit about NESA compliance around artificial intelligence, just so parents are aware that there is some academic integrity involved with artificial intelligence in schools at a compliance level. I'll talk about some of the things we've been talking through with students around safety, bias, and ethics, and considerations when using artificial intelligence tools. And then I'll talk through at the end some of the tools that students and teachers have access to at Chevalier College and different ways that we have been using and may be using in the future. So, as I said, if you do have questions, write them down. If it's easier for you to type them in the chat as we go along, feel free to do that. But I'm on my own today, so I won't have an opportunity to answer your questions until the end. Otherwise, sit back and enjoy while I talk through the presentation to you. So today we're talking about artificial intelligence and learning. And one of the big reasons we're talking about artificial intelligence and learning is because over the last couple of years, so the last 5 years, and the last 3 years in particular around generative text AI, there's been a huge explosion in the capabilities of artificial intelligence. And this is having a huge impact on schools and students, as well as teachers. And we're having to have a deep think about the way we approach education and learning, the way we approach digital tools in schools, and some of the ways that artificial intelligence is impacting on us as teachers. So I put this picture in here because I think it's a good demonstration about where artificial tools are sitting at the moment. So you can have a close look at the graph there, and you can see that um, on the left-hand side is the 100% human performance. So we're not talking about the average human, we're talking about the best humans. And you can see that artificial intelligence has started to impact or overtake some of the best humans in industry in some of the areas there. And this graph is from mid 2025, and you can see the data it's collected is from the end of 2024. So artificial intelligence has only grown and improved in capabilities since this graph was developed. But you can still see there that in a lot of capability areas, artificial intelligence can defeat humans or are better than humans on examination type situations based on the graph and the data that's coming in there. So this information is based on general artificial intelligence. So the tools that we as parents and the students have access to generally are the tools that are competing against humans in these areas for intelligence. So it's having a huge impact. And you can see that a lot of the areas it's outperforming humans already around image classification, visual reasoning, reading comprehension, English language understanding. There's been competition level mathematics and PDH level science questions that artificial intelligence is able to answer. And it's getting to the point now where there is debates around, is this artificial general intelligence, which is not to be confused with artificial super intelligence, or are we are we just moving on with artificial intelligence and we're about to get to artificial general intelligence? So we're at the point in time where artificial intelligence is getting very good. Another example of this is the Turing test. So anyone who's been around the artificial intelligence research for a while would know the Turing test. And the way the Turing test works, and it was developed by Alan Turing, which is the godfather of artificial intelligence. He said that if a computer can pass this test, then it is artificial general intelligence, according to Alan Turing. And the way he set it up is that we have a human on a computer, and we have on the other side a computer having a conversation with a human, and another human having a conversation with the human. And then it's up to the human to decide whether he's talking to a computer or a human. Now, back in the 1950s, when this test was devised, the computer was only picked about 15% of the time. But now in 2025, the artificial intelligence has passed the Turing test. In fact, it was picked 73% of the times when they redid the Turing test over the human. So the computer was picked 73% of the times instead of the human as the human, which is very interesting. So over the last 2 years, the researchers have tried to come up with lots of different tests to see how good the artificial intelligence is getting. So we now have um, an exam called the Humanities Last Exam. So what the Humanities Last Exams is they have 1,000 experts all together in 1,000 experts all together to come up with an exam to see if a computer can answer the smartest or the best questions on this exam. So the 1,000 experts came up with 2,500 questions, and at the moment, the best model on the Humanities Last Exam is GPT-5, which gets 25% of this test correct. And just to point out that at this point, no human has ever completed humanity's last exam. So, because it was created by 1,000 experts, it's expected that a human would only get 0.01% of this test correct. So that's where we're at and the evolution of artificial intelligence. I like showing this graph because it's a good indication of um, the way the artificial intelligence growth is happening right now. So this is a graph that shows the length of time that a coding artificial intelligence takes to complete a task. And you can see that it was following an exponential curve in growth of every 7 months that was doubling in capability. But now in 2024 to 2025, it actually went even faster and it's growing or doubling exponentially again and doubling in capability every 4 months. So what we're seeing with artificial intelligence is not only is it growing in capabilities exponentially, but it's growing quicker than their predictions of the exponential growth. So right now, artificial intelligence is growing quicker and quicker, and there's an expectation that once it hits proper AGI or artificial general intelligence, that artificial intelligence will grow at an even quicker exponential curve because the artificial intelligence will be reinforcing its learning and training itself. And what this is doing is it's having a huge impact on the workforce, including education where we are, but I'm sure it's hitting the workplace where you guys are as well. So some things that we're seeing from an education perspective is huge job cuts. So there's been huge job cuts in the tech industry. So these are just coming out from recent information from the media around huge job cuts happening. And in 2025 alone, across the world, there's been 180,000 job cuts in the tech industry in terms of restructure. And people don't like to say that it's because of AI, but AI would definitely be having an impact here. This is seen in the job ads that go out as well. So the job ads that you'll be seeing and the students will be seeing when they're leaving the high school situation, they'll be seeing a growth in AI related comments in job postings. So this year alone, since 2019, there's been a 3 times growth in artificial intelligence capabilities being mentioned in jobs out in the workforce. So that's having a huge impact on the way we think about artificial intelligence at Chev. And then we're starting to see roles now around the ability to create and manage agents. So not only just managing teams of people, you're managing a team of agents. So these are actual job postings. So agent engineer, agent manager, senior manager, AI agents. So there is starting to be an expectation already in the present, not even in the future, that you'll have the capability and understanding to create AI agents and manage an AI agent team moving forward. Sorry, at the moment. So we don't know what that might look like in the future. So what does that mean for learning? So at Chev, we've had a deep think about what this means for Chevalier College, and we take a future-focused lens. So we're very much taking an AI positive lens, and we're going to implement artificial intelligence under what we're calling the three C's of clarity, consistency, and capacity. So the first C, clarity. This came from conversations with teachers and students, and their biggest concern was clarity around when they are and when they're not allowed to use artificial intelligence. So the first thing we decided that we had to do was provide more clarity for teachers, and then that in turn will provide more clarity for students around when and how they can use artificial intelligence in their learning. The next C was around consistency. So consistency is really about providing consistent tools that students have access to, so we can get a level playing field to the tools that students have access to, as well as the teachers. And then this was consistency around the expectations of using artificial intelligence, both from a teacher level and a student level. And then the last one was around capacity. So capacity includes building the capacity of the teachers, as well as building the capacity of the students in order to utilize the artificial intelligence tools that they have access to in an appropriate way to help learning rather than hinder learning. So part of that capacity is sessions like this one as well. So providing capacity for the community and the parent community around artificial intelligence, which should hopefully help with all three of the C's around clarity, keep consistent, and build the capacity of the community as well. So in terms of assessment and artificial intelligence at Chev, we're going down the two lanes path. So the two lanes path was, I wouldn't say it's invented, but widely used across the higher education sector, particularly started by University of Sydney and Denny Liu. So the two lanes assessment goes like this. You have one lane that is no artificial intelligence. It's pretty much what you might expect around sit-down exams, oral presentations in the classroom, written essays. But then there's also lane two, which lane two provides an opportunity for the use of artificial intelligence to build the skills and knowledge in terms of the learning content, but around also building the skills and knowledge to utilize artificial intelligence in appropriate ways. So in order to decide whether we're going down a lane one or lane two path with assessment, we're using these terms latency and no latency. So if anyone in here works in the tech field, you probably understand what latency and no latency may mean. But anyone who has not heard of latency, I'll just give a quick explanation. You can see in the instructions there that no latency means there's no thinking time. It's immediate recall. So anything that you need immediate recall for, or the teachers determine needs immediate recall in terms of the workplace, sits well under a lane one assessment. So something that needs immediate recall would sit well within a sit-down exam where you need to recall that with an exam, because in the workplace, it's very important to recall some foundation knowledge when you're doing those types of jobs. Now, higher latency would include something that can be completed over time. So something that could be completed in the workplace over a period of days or a period of weeks, where you've got time to research, create something, and get feedback on that, change it, and then provide that as a product in a human-led situation. So teachers, this is all new to teachers as well. So teachers will find some things harder to grasp than some of the students do, who may pick up some things quicker. So teachers are trying to determine when might be appropriate to be lane one, when it may be appropriate to be lane two. But we, as teachers, will definitely make mistakes where we thought this was a good lane one assessment. AI goes and does it for the student, and then we need to start rethinking how we're providing the assessment of learning of the students. So it's a learning curve for us as well as the students, but it's definitely something that we're trying to build the capacity in so we can make the appropriate decisions around learning and assessment. So if we do decide that it's a lane 2 assessment, we're going down an AI assessment scale. So the AI assessment scale has 4 levels, starting with AI planning at the top, and then it's accumulative as we go down. So the expectation, if you're doing an assessment and you're asked to do the assessment at a level 2 AI planning, then you might be using AI around ideation planning and to help you with research, but other parts of the assessment's expected that no AI may be used. And then as we go down, it's expected that you can do anything before it, as well as the sentences that are after it. So level 3, we've got collaborating with AI as part of the assessment. Level 4 is a full use of AI in the assessment, and then level 5 would be AI exploration. So to provide clarity for students and teachers, we are using these signs, which we're calling road signs, on the assessments. So you can see that the road signs have a clear indication of what level the AI use will be as an expectation for that part of the assessment, going into 5 different levels. And generally, these sit under the 2 different lanes that I mentioned before. So you've got lane 1 having level 1 and some of level 2 sitting under lane 1, and then lane 2 is really using AI in multiple different ways. Anything that's sitting under lane 2 links back to the academic integrity that I'll mention shortly, where we need to reference how we're using AI as part of the assessment. So this is just a closer look at how some of these may look, so you can see the explanations a bit bigger. So those explanations will be on the assessments as well, sitting with students. So we've got level 1 there. Level 2, level 3, level 4, and then level 5. And then the way this will work on the assessment is the students will get the same assessment notifications that they always have, but now sitting on the assessment notifications, they will see these road signs indicating at different parts of the assessment when and how it's appropriate to use artificial intelligence. Like always, the teachers will talk through these assessments with the students anyway, and when the teacher's having the conversation with the students, they will talk through the expectation around AI as well as the other parts of the assessment. Students and parents may see more than one road sign on an assessment. It just means that the assessment is completed in multiple parts, and different parts of the assessment lend themselves more appropriately to different parts of artificial intelligence. Even with exams, when it may be a no AI use, it's probably split into 2 parts where it's appropriate to use a level 2 or level 3 artificial intelligence to plan for the exam, and then during the exam, no artificial intelligence. So the next thing to talk about is how does this link back to academic integrity? So there is NESA compliance around artificial intelligence and assessment, and this links back to a document called malpractice policy as part of the academic integrity from NESA. And big parts of this policy come around plagiarism and collusion. So plagiarism is probably a word that a lot of parents would know about and understand. So this generally meant in the past copy and pasting from a website, copying and pasting from a book, basically presenting work that's not your own work as your own work. So that would be considered plagiarism. And when it comes to artificial intelligence, artificial intelligence isn't officially plagiarism. What's plagiarism is that you're presenting it as your own when it wasn't your own. So one thing to really point out that if students are using artificial intelligence, particularly in the senior grades, and they're allowed to use artificial intelligence, they should be acknowledging that they're using artificial intelligence. So that could be as simple as this document includes content created with the help of AI tools. And generally speaking, if we're using artificial intelligence, most assessments that students are doing should include some sort of statement to say that they've been using artificial intelligence tools and to what level. And then that way they're not plagiarizing the content as their own. More importantly, there is part of the policy around collusion. So collusion may not necessarily be a word that you do know, and collusion generally talks about those opportunities where another person may have done the work for the student, and then the student presented it as their own. So something like a parent doing the assessment for the student and then handing it in, or an AI tutor being paid and then the AI tutor did the assessment for the student and the student hands it in. Under the malpractice policy, that can be seen as collusion and you can get an A as part of the assessment. So I think the key part when you're using artificial intelligence is the unauthorized use of AI. So that's actually part of the policy, that wording. So if we're telling students that they're allowed to use artificial intelligence at level 3, then that's an authorized use of artificial intelligence. But then if they go on and use AI at level 5 at a full AI level and then present it as their own, then that would be an unauthorized use of artificial intelligence. So it's just around the wording and the expectations set forth by the teacher. If a parent or student is confused around how much they should be using AI in an assessment, definitely refer back to the road signs on the assessment. If that's still confusing, have a conversation with the classroom teacher via email, via phone call, or coming to the school. So then we can have clarity around what the authorized use of AI is, and then we're sticking to that authorized use. So we're avoiding collusion as part of the malpractice policy. So one thing we're having a huge conversation with the students around at the moment. So I've run multiple levels for different age groups already around safety and ethics with information technology and digital technologies, including artificial intelligence. So first of all, we've been talking a lot around privacy and protecting your identity online, and that includes with artificial intelligence, how to remain anonymous in the conversations and the data that you're providing. And some of the safeguards we have in place, I'll talk about in a moment. We've been having a conversation around bias. So all artificial intelligence is trained on human intelligence, and inherently humans are biased. Artificial intelligence averages out generally, unless it's told to do otherwise. So whether we like it or not, artificial intelligence, just like humans, will have bias. And it's just making sure students have an awareness of the bias that artificial intelligence may have. So they can change questions, ask questions in different ways, or try and ask different tools instead of just sticking with the one. Making a clear decision to understand that there may be bias and finding ways that may supplement their learning through the bias or inhibit their learning through the bias that comes out of artificial intelligence. So we've been having a conversation with students around that. And then the last one is a big one around cognitive offloading. So artificial intelligence has the ability to enhance learning greatly, but also has the ability for the student to offload their thinking or offload their learning if they choose to. So one of the big things we found already is students who are engaged, happy and safe in a classroom are a lot less likely to partake in cognitive offloading than students who may be disengaged within a lesson. So teachers are definitely trying to change practices in some ways. So they're engaging students in different ways, trying to change assessments in different ways. So they're providing opportunities for scaffolded learning rather than the cognitive offloading. But this is something, a phrasing that we've introduced to students, cognitive offloading, and something we're talking about, not letting AI do the job for you, but also using AI as a tool for learning. So there's 4 tools that students have access to at Chevalier College in terms of artificial intelligence. And I'll look at each of these in a little more detail. But the tools that they have access to are Canva AI, Google Gemini, which uses the Learn LM tutor in the background education system, and Notebook LM tool, which runs on Google Gemini. At the moment, we've kept ChatGPT open. It's the, unfortunately, main tool used by students and teachers as the first tool they jumped into, not necessarily this year, but previously. And we've decided to keep it turned on for the moment. And I'll talk about that in a second. And then the last tool that students will start having access to is Microsoft Copilot with the new licensing and the Active Directory that we've set up in the background. So just to talk through each of these tools and what students have access to in these tools in case you haven't been privy to some of the changes that are happening in the education space around these tools. So the first tool I wanted to talk about is Canva AI. So Canva AI is a K to 12 education tool. So students are using this under single sign-on in the education account. So the education account isn't trained on any of the student's data, and anything that student provides within the artificial intelligence, as well as anything provided in Canva, is protected and sent within Australian servers, being an Australian company. So artificial intelligence in Canva is one of the best tools that students have access to, and it's provided to them and teachers for free by Canva. And what it looks like within the Canva tool, so students will see a Canva AI button, and when they click that Canva AI button, they will see all of the tools that are highlighted underneath there. So they have the ability to create lessons themselves if they choose. They can go into AI design, which is a tool used for artificial intelligence designing for them presentations, posters, social media posts, anything of the like. There's AI around docs, creating using artificial intelligence within docs. There's Canva Code, which will create interactive apps for the students, which now has persistent data. So one of the new releases on the weekend was around persistent data in Canva Code. So they can utilize and analyze data that's collected on an interactive app in the background, or just make a simple app that they're using as a study tool. And video clips is highlighted there, but students don't have access to the AI video clips within Canva AI. Some of the things that students have access to around AI in the design. So there's a tool in Canva now called Ask Canva, where students can have a conversation around the design that they're creating. This example here, you can see that it's combining two pictures into a new picture to use in the design. So students have a lot more opportunity to use their creativity around keeping consistency in their designs. There's new tools like Magic Style Switch, which will match designs based on the style of the other parts of the document, so a student can learn about keeping consistent throughout a document. There's other tools as well around editing images. So if you click in Canva, any image, you've got the opportunity to edit the image, and there's artificial intelligence used to edit images as well, such as background remover, generating backgrounds, background erasers, object erasers, magic grab, where you can grab objects out of a picture, you can grab text out of a picture and move and create with some of the artificial intelligence tools that Canva has there. And then within documents, you can also use the artificial intelligence with text. So you can highlight a text and use artificial intelligence to change that text in different ways. The next tool to talk about is Google Gemini. So as I mentioned, Google Gemini comes within its own app. It sits within Google as well. So Google Gemini is used in search results that pop up at the top. And a big tool that we're promoting to students at the moment is Notebook LM. So I'll talk about that in a moment. Google Gemini is also a K to 12 tool. So Google Gemini sits within the education workspace space of Google. So it sits in the same space as Google Drive, Google Docs, Google Slides, anything like that within the education space. And it has the same enterprise protections or education protections that any of those tools do, including Notebook LM has the same protections as the Google workspace. Now, one thing we've been talking to students about a lot is that these tools have within them the opportunity to have a conversation where it just doesn't give you the answer. It has a conversation back and forth to find out what you know before it supports you to come up with an answer, before it can help you. So one of the tools highlighted there in the Google Gemini tool is the guided learning. So within Gemini, they've trained their own models at Google, and one of the models they've been training is called Learn LM. And Learn LM is a model that won't give you the answers straight away. It'll have a conversation to try and help you come to an answer. Highlighted there as well is deep research. So students have access to 5 deep researchers a month, and deep research will go completely in depth of an area of interest for the students. It's really good for the senior students to find a reference list and start reading through some of the references that it provides you, not just the report that it will give you. So it may find documents that students just wouldn't have the time to find otherwise, and give those students a really comprehensive research towards the task that they're completing. Another thing that students have access to, but that we've been teaching them, is the Gemini tools. So students not only have to just rely on what Google has set as guardrails in the background. They have the opportunity to create their own gems, and these gems can be used with their own guidelines and supporting documents to really ground the conversation into the way the student would like to learn, or the information that they've been provided in the learning content. As I mentioned before, one of the tools that Google has is called Notebook LM. And Notebook LM is a side tool. That doesn't sit within the Google Gemini. And we've been really showing the students this tool because it will provide them an opportunity to learn in a way that they find appropriate to them. So the way it works is you provide this tool with information. So this information can be copied. It can be YouTube videos. It can be Google Docs. It can be PDFs, and then you provide it, or there's a Discover tool. So if you click the Discover tool, the Notebook LM will go and find appropriate references based on the task that you've set it to find or the information that you'd like to learn about. One of the things we've been showing students is saving Canvas course content as a PDF. So if you right click it, save as, it saves as a PDF, and then you can upload the PDFs to Notebook LM. Now, the way Notebook LM works is that it grounds its conversation in those documents. So when you're having a conversation with this tool, you're not having a conversation with the whole of the creativity of a normal artificial intelligence tool. What you're doing is you're having a conversation grounded in these documents. And then what it does is when it provides you with an answer, it provides you references to the documents. So when it answers, it will provide you references back to the document, and then you can go and click on those references and read around where it found that information back in the document rather than just it being found randomly anywhere else. So when you provide the information that's been provided to the students, it's really grounded in what they're learning in class, what they're having a conversation with, just to help them if they have a misunderstanding or take it even further. And then to add to that, over on the right-hand side, there's different tools to change the way the content is delivered. So this is where you can turn the content into an audio podcast that you can listen to, audio summaries. You can really drill down into one part you want a lot of practice in. There's video summaries and video debates as well. There is mind maps if you want to break the content down into smaller parts and start reading it in smaller parts. You can generate different reports. You can create flashcards, which is actually the example down here on the bottom left is a flashcard on the right-hand side of that. And then you can create quizzes if you want to practice the content. So I know my son personally loves Notebook LM to go in and start creating some quizzes and flashcards, particularly at this time of the year around exam time, to cram information in before the exams. Students also have access to Microsoft Copilot. We had a bit of trouble getting Microsoft Copilot to select the correct ages of the students, but we think we fixed that now. So Microsoft Copilot, like the other two I mentioned before, is an enterprise protected tool. Microsoft Copilot is not a K-12 tool, it's a 13+ tool. So students from years 8 and above will have open access to Microsoft Copilot to use. And Microsoft Copilot, similar to the Google tools, it has different opportunities to go out and find information grounded in the information that you can provide it. So students will have access to things like the researcher agent to go and find those documents that I mentioned before. And they will also have access to go and create their own agents where they can ground the information, they can ground the conversation and the information that they would like to provide. Another benefit of using Microsoft Copilot is that we generally use the Microsoft suite of tools around the school, and now Microsoft has opened Microsoft Copilot in the ribbon under not having to pay an extra license to get access to some of these tools. So students will start seeing the Microsoft Copilot in the ribbon where they can have a conversation of the document that they're working in rather than an open conversation elsewhere. So they will have an option to work within the document in Copilot as well. And the last tool to mention is ChatGPT. So when I came to the school, ChatGPT was used widely across the school. ChatGPT is not an enterprise account, and it's the least safe of the tools that we are providing the students the opportunity to use at school at the moment. At some point in the future, ChatGPT will be turned off. But as I mentioned earlier, ChatGPT is the tool that most teachers and students are most comfortable with. So we've decided it's also the tool that students may only have access to when they leave school as well. So we provide them with these enterprise tools, but when they leave in year 12, they may not have access to any of these enterprise tools that we've provided them access to. So we've come to the decision that we will allow ChatGPT to be used by the students so they have an understanding of how to use it, but not only that, teach them how to use it in a safer way, keeping their privacy and information private. So to that end, I want to point out to the parents very quickly that there is a way to turn off training within ChatGPT that we've been telling the students to turn off immediately. And I recommend that any of the conversations you have with your students, if you see them, your children, sorry, if you see them using ChatGPT, go into the settings, change the data controls, and turn off being trained. So that's turned on by default, and you need to go in and turn that off. The other thing you can do is that if you have a ChatGPT account, there is parent controls now, and you can go and add a student to your ChatGPT account or the child to your ChatGPT account, and then it has extra protections that you can provide in there about how they're using that tool. So ChatGPT, we've been showing students how to use it, same as the other tools around Study and Learn, which is the guided learning mode similar to Copilot and Gemini that it has access to, and it also has a deep research tool. So there's lots of deep research tools that students can use to find references to readings that they can utilize for the senior assessments. And then one new addition to ChatGPT is around projects. So just like the other tools, projects works to ground information. So what that means is they can provide the PDFs within there, and then the conversations they're having are around those PDFs. But as I mentioned earlier, I highly recommend promoting Canva AI, Gemini, and Copilot for use with the students. But as it stands right at this point in time, ChatGPT is still accessible at school, which may be turned off in the future. But at the moment, we're trying to provide the students the opportunity to prepare for a world where they may not have the other three tools. So that is the end of my presentation, and I will jump over to stop sharing and jump into the chat. I've seen that there has been some questions coming in. So at this point in time, I'll run through and answer any of the questions as I run down. Thank you for coming if you choose to leave at this point in time. Otherwise, I will run down some of these questions and try and answer them for you. Oh, did I not share my screen the whole time? Oh no, all good. So the road signs are starting to be used right now. Some teachers are using them for term 4. Some of the term 4 assessments were already set and weren't being used. But as of the start of next year, the road signs should be used for all of the assessments. Thank you, Jordan. Good question, Christine. So at the moment, there's multiple entry points to a lot of the assessments. So at the moment, a lot of the teachers are coming to me around, I know this student can't do this quality of work and they provided me this quality of work. What can we do about it? And my answer back to the teacher is thinking forward, how do we change the assessment? Because at the moment, there's no sure way to use AI detection tools to accuse a student of using artificial intelligence. So because there is no clear way, and we would never go out of the way and say this is the only way we're accusing your child of using artificial intelligence at an unauthorized level. But we have a lot of entry points to students' work. So if we see that in-class tasks don't match the at-home tasks, or we see the student using artificial intelligence, or a student hasn't referenced artificial intelligence use, that's when we'll start having conversations with the student and the parents. As it stands at the moment, any students that have been questioned admitted it pretty quickly. We haven't had too many circumstances where the student blatantly denies it, but the teacher knows that they used it for this assessment. And as I said, there's a multiple entry points. So the assessments will always catch up to the students if they've used it at some point because there's different ways that teachers are assessing the students. And if the students have just always used ChatGPT, provided the answer, then we need to change the assessment. TJ, the answer to yours around cognitive offloading is that you can't trust 100% the kids to not want to do cognitive offloading, but that's something that's not new. So even I know as a student, there's many a times that I did cognitive offloading without the internet at all, copying other people's work. So this isn't something that's new for students within the school. What we can do is we can provide the students with information about how to use these tools appropriately. We can provide them information about what cognitive offloading is and the disadvantages to them in the long run around cognitive offloading. And then there's always the natural consequence that if they do cognitive offloading and come to an exam situation, that they won't be able to recall the information, which is a clear sign that there was a negative or a deficit to their cognitive offloading. Yes, correct. So Jordan's just mentioned there around redefining and redesigning assessments where there's less risk of cognitive offloading, which we're trying to move more towards a process situation where there's more assessment points, uh, more smaller assessments points where we can see the process of learning over a period of time, as well as online and hand-based assessments. Definitely a balance of utilizing artificial intelligence. So Um, just because there will be road signs where students have an opportunity to do level three, there'll definitely be a balance between level one assessments and level three assessments. I doubt there'll be a lot of level five assessments to start off with until teachers and students become more comfortable with artificial intelligence and using AI in assessments. So it's a learning curve at the moment around providing the balance, and teachers may make mistakes as we go along, but as we get more comfortable with the artificial intelligence, we'll balance out um, more towards using artificial intelligence in different ways. So around the critical thinking, I've definitely seen students use artificial intelligence to enhance their critical thinking more so than another type of assessment. But I've also seen them use AI in a way that is not beneficial to their critical thinking, which may have been better done in another way. So um, ourselves as teachers and students are learning where the balance is between utilizing artificial intelligence in a way that improves critical thinking rather than a deficit. Thanks, Jordan. Just put in a link there to other information. There's a question in there from Christine around teachers using artificial assessments to mark, AI to mark assessments. So at the moment, most teachers are not comfortable using artificial intelligence to mark assessments. Depends on the assessment. We are doing some trials, but when we've trialed artificial intelligence marking, we've let the students know. So students are very aware upfront if artificial intelligence is being used in the marking process. Um, the teachers had a discussion with them around their expectations around artificial intelligence and marking. And then what the did is they had a conversation around the feedback that artificial intelligence can provide compared to the feedback that a teacher can provide. So in this particular task, there was multiple questions where usually a teacher would just provide an overall feedback at the end that might be one or two sentences, but they talked to the students around artificial intelligence marking. They provided the feedback back to the student, which was actually on multiple parts of the assessment. So teachers would never have been able to provide that much feedback to students. It also meant that they were able to give the assessment back to the student within 2 days. So not only did they have more feedback provided, they also had the assessments back quicker. And then what the students did is they had a conversation with the teacher around the feedback and whether that feedback was beneficial or not. So in general, teachers are not using AI to mark assessments, but we have been having some trials. And if we have been doing that, we've been upfront with the students. So Chantel's got a question about their support for the teachers. So we've been providing professional learning for the teachers as the year has gone on. It's been one of my major roles at the school. Um, I've had a major focus on embedding AI into the process that the teachers are already doing and making them start to feel more comfortable around artificial intelligence, what it is, what it can do, what it can't do, some of the barriers of artificial intelligence, how it can enhance learning, how it's has a risk of the cognitive offloading that I mentioned before. So teachers have been provided professional learning at multiple entry points throughout the year on all of those tools that I mentioned to you. Yeah, Mark's just mentioning there that universities, so higher education is also adapting to artificial intelligence. They, like us, are trying different things, but I think no one at the moment has complete answer of what it may look like. So yes, Mark had a question around prompting. So students have definitely been had a conversation around prompting and effective prompting based on the assessment they're doing in some circumstances or based on the subject that they're learning in some circumstances. Prompting will be need to be adapted compared to the task that they're doing. That's something that teachers are also learning at the moment. So one of the first things I did at the school was provide support to the teachers around prompting and effective prompting. And then there's meta prompting as well. So going to an AI tool to take your prompt and enhance it even further. We've been talking to some of the students around the types of questions they ask to artificial intelligence. So a lot of the time you'll see that a student is asking what or how questions to artificial intelligence. But what is a good task in the classroom is that we're highlighting that they are asking low level questions, and then we go back and on the same task ask higher level questions and see if the responses change compared to their low level questions, and then have a conversation around not only the content that was delivered in artificial intelligence, but also the questions that they're asking. So Chantel's just asking, um, is it all an upside from my perspective? No, there's lots of things that I worry about in terms of the learning pathway. So I do have a more positive view than what some schools or teachers may have. Um, I see it with my own eyes that artificial intelligence can enhance learning, especially when students are taught to use it in different and effective ways. But there is definitely risk of cognitive offloading. There's privacy risks, particularly around using ChatGPT. There is risks of teachers overutilizing artificial intelligence for the content they're delivering. So all of these definitely play on my mind. So it's not all upside from me, but I think a lot of people don't talk about the positives or the upside of artificial intelligence for student learning. There is many. So Jordan's just mentioning plagiarism detection anomalies. So at the moment, we do have Turnitin that teachers can check, but Turnitin is not a trusted AI detection tool, so we can't trust it as teachers. And teachers will only use it if they suspect the student used artificial intelligence. So they won't go use Turnitin on every student, but it's just one extra point that they can use within their discussion with the student. So it's not a tool that we rely on, Jordan. It's just someone typing. So Chantel's just mentioned talking more about the potential issues and predicted downsides and the way that Chev's mitigating. So um, a lot of the ways when we're mitigating is the first instance, making sure that students have access to the enterprise tools, which is one of the safety concerns that I mentioned before. The cognitive offloading at the moment, we're trying to mitigate that through education. So talking about it, make sure teachers are talking about it as part of the assessment processes. Another way we're mitigating that is changing the way we're doing assessments, which may be a slow process. Also providing more clarity for students around the expectations with artificial intelligence. We're looking at ways that we can have more oversight of a student's access to the internet as well during a class time to see the way they're using devices within the class. at the moment, we haven't found a safe way to do that where we're not also monitoring that device at home, which is something we don't want to be doing. So we're looking at tools that we can do that to mitigate the risks as well. Awesome. Question from Michael around, are teachers required to use AI in their classrooms and assessments? So there's no hard requirement, but we've definitely given them open access to use it within the classrooms and as part of their assessments, and then provided support through myself and other leaders in the school if they would like to have a go at doing that as part of their classroom and assessment. So naturally, there's going to be teachers that are more willing to innovate, that are further along the innovation curve than teachers that are more towards the back of the innovation curve. I've actually been surprised the amount of teachers that I thought that may be towards the back of the innovation curve that have been willing to jump in and try something new around artificial intelligence and then talk positively about the impact that that's had on the students. So, something as simple as there's a tool called Goblin Tools that will break a task down for students. So, that's a quick access for teachers and students where it's not doing a lot of the answering for the students. You provide it with a learning intention or a task, and it'll break that learning down into steps that the students then go and step forward. So even the most hesitant teachers have been willing to give that one a go. TJ, good question. Will artificial intelligence eventually lead to less human interaction between teachers and students? At Chev, it won't. So Chev has a huge focus on well-being and the human interaction centered around the heart. So at Chevalier College, the human will always come before the digital tools and the artificial intelligence. And personally, I think what will happen with artificial intelligence is that we will fall back into more human interaction than less human interaction. So moving away from the devices at times where you may have used the device in the past to have more of an eye contact conversation as an assessment tool rather than a way to mark quickly on a device. So personally, I feel that there will be more human interaction than less human interaction, unless the government overlords decide that they're going to save money and the teachers are in rooms of 100 on the device using AI. But I can't see that going down well with teachers, especially Chevalier College, who has a big focus on well-being and the heart. Yeah, definitely, Karen. So Karen's just asked, is there an acknowledgement that innovation in the classroom may not include artificial intelligence at all? Definitely. Um, There are definitely ways that students access digital technologies in the classroom that may not use artificial intelligence at all, particularly around design thinking and designing, data analytics and data and collecting data, and then some of the hands-on science that they might do in the classroom that definitely may not use artificial intelligence. So there is still that talk as well, but AI is something that we can't ignore. Good question, Mark. I can take that one back for you. It's not something that has been brought up in a lot of meetings, so I can put that down as a concern that's been raised by a parent. Good to know, Chantel. So definitely something I'll note as well about a workshop for parents, particularly around the four tools that we use. If you are interested, I will have a think around that. Definitely, Jordan. That's something I have noticed as well, and something that I've been trying to work on with teachers is having a more consistent approach towards Canvas and setting Canvas tasks. So definitely noted, and something that has been noted and mentioned. All right, awesome, guys. It has fallen just on 7 o'clock. So thank you very much for being the parents that have come to this session to ask the questions. Just a reminder that this has been recorded and will be sent out to everyone that sent the email forward. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. Feel free to come and ask me any questions or email the school and ask for me if you have any more questions around artificial intelligence. So thank you very much for coming and for your time. Thanks, guys.